Hey guys, Pete here. Today's Game of Thrones Season 8 bonus video will be about an idea that I started seeing pop up in my comments a little more than a week ago. The idea is that the Night King won't be at the Battle of Winterfell at all, and that he has another target in mind. I saw it so many times that I knew it was popular, and it's one of those ideas that people like so much that they speak of it as fact. Personally, I think that he will be there, and my initial thinking about the idea was that it didn't make sense based on what we've seen. Since I kept hearing about it, I thought I should check out the theory, and turns out it's not a bad idea in that it addresses some problems that I've brought up in previous videos myself. Mainly, if the White Walkers are defeated in episode 3, why is the second half of the season the longer half? They are the real threat, right? It's a legitimate concern, and one I think most of us have been asking. When I asked it in a video 6 weeks ago, most people then were thinking that the dead would win at Winterfell, the heroes would escape, and that would set up a final showdown in episode 5. Lately, the popular opinion has shifted based on the theory that the Night King would actually attack King's Landing, while the rest of his army is attacking Winterfell. I've been traveling this week, so I haven't been able to make a video for the past couple of days, and I've been thinking about this the entire time. I wish I could say that I knew if it would happen or not, one way or the other, but I can't. My gut tells me it won't, so this video will be about my thinking and how I got to that point. Initially, when I heard this idea, I didn't like it because it didn't align with anything I had been thinking might be motivations for the Night King. I do expect there to be a big twist related to the battle, but in my mind, King's Landing wouldn't be where the White Walkers would be looking. If you haven't read the theory, I will put a link to the original Reddit post in the description, but the idea is that it would be easy for Rhaegal and Drogon to take Viserion out in the battle since he's a white and can be destroyed by fire. The Night King is not stupid, so he wouldn't put his new super weapon out there at the Battle of Winterfell just to lose it. Instead, he would go to King's Landing and create a new southern army. This would be a twist, and I think there is no question that the Night King is a strategist, but I run into more than a few problems when I try to think this through. First, the idea that Viserion is a garden variety white. I understand why people think this. I get it. He was dead before the Night King turned him. White Walkers, on the other hand, aren't dead. They're living people who are turned. This was a big debate in the aftermath of Season 7, and where I ended up is that it isn't settled. Mainly because Viserion isn't a human. He's a magical entity, and I don't think we can assume rules about his inherent vulnerabilities. This is a huge rabbit hole I don't want to go down in this video. There's good arguments on both sides of it, and I don't think we can say for sure what Viserion is or what can take him out. Of course, if he is a white, this would be a big issue in a battle where the living are going to be using fire liberally. But essentially, I don't think that means he would look for another target because of this. Why not just put Viserion somewhere safe nearby while the battle is going on? At Hardhome, the Night King seemed fine sitting back and watching while the whites destroyed the wildlings. Why would he not approach the Battle of Winterfell in the same way? I agree with the theory in that he's not dumb, but don't think this means his best option is to take Viserion somewhere else while he leaves the battle in the hands of his underling. The only engagement we've seen south of the wall is what happened at Last Hearth. We didn't actually see the attack, but what we saw of the yard looked like what you might expect in that scenario. It doesn't appear that the Night King arrived and burned everything to the ground with his dragon. Instead, it looks like the defenders were overrun by whites and the bodies were raised and added to his army. So yes, the Night King does have a dragon, but he doesn't seem to be getting all unnecessarily burny with it. My next problem is that it doesn't seem to me that going to burn everyone in King's Landing with dragonfire equates to the best way to build up your army. I kind of wonder how that would even work since dragonfire is regarded as one of the most destructive forces in the Game of Thrones world. Aegon the Conqueror using the Black Dread's fire to melt the stone towers of Harrenhal is just one example. Dragonfire melts stone. It's that hot. It's lethal, and it doesn't seem there would be much left behind of the dead to use as an army. I assume the idea is that he flies south solo because that's the only way it would work, and making a new dead army with dragonfire seems problematic. Even if you don't agree with that, there are plenty of other places with people the Night King could grow his army. For instance, Sansa called the Banners, but we know Lord Glover at Deepwood Motte refused to come. He could have flown Viserion over there, killed everyone and raised their ashes, and then he could mount a surprise attack in the coming battle. Also, there's plenty of places between the North and King's Landing along the way, so it just doesn't really stand out to me as the most obvious target. If the Night King was going south to lay waste to King's Landing, that might make more sense in it's a place that has a high population density. But other than killing a lot of people fast, why would the Night King be interested in the city? As viewers, we're interested in the city because it's Westeros' seat of power. It's where the Iron Throne and the current queen are. But the White Walkers aren't trying to rule Westeros, they're trying to exterminate its inhabitants. To this point, there hasn't been much to indicate there would be any reason why hitting King's Landing with a surprise attack would be better than slowly destroying everyone on the way there and arriving in the south with a super army that could smash whoever might be waiting for them. Now the theory points out Bran's vision from season 4, where he saw the shadow of a dragon over King's Landing and the destroyed throne room from Daenerys' House of the Undying vision to support his idea. This is compelling since everything else in that vision seems to have come to pass. I think it's interesting but not conclusive. I think one way or another, no matter what happens at Winterfell, these two things can still happen. For me, there would need to be another reason the Night King saw King's Landing as a priority to think he would turn his attention away from the battle that's in front of him. So I'm not sure if we should think of Viserion as a highly flammable liability, but if he is, I don't think that the Night King needs to take him elsewhere. We've seen him be patient, and now that he is through the wall, time's on his side. Also, I don't see how he can add to his army with Viserion. As a guy who can reanimate the dead, Dragonfire seems like overkill, especially since his current plan seems to be working fine. There's no problems. He's just adding to his army as he goes. There's also new information since this idea came out. The theory of the Night King going to King's Landing emerged before episode 2 aired. During the episode, we had an explanation from Bran about what the Night King wants that went like this. Bran, he'll come for me, he's tried before, many times with many three-eyed ravens. Sam, why? What does he want? An endless night. An endless night. He wants to erase this world and I am its memory. This gives us the idea that there is something specific in Winterfell, Bran, that the Night King views as a priority. This seems to be in line with his movements since he appears to be headed straight there. We know since Tormund and the boys went around his army that besides that short stop in Last Hearth, that's what they seem to be doing. If I didn't jump on the bandwagon of him heading to King's Landing before this came out, this information doesn't move me in that direction. Is what Bran's saying here the whole story? Probably not. It may just be all he knows right now, or all of what he thought he needed to say to get his plan in motion. Still, we've seen the Night King come for him. He was waiting to mark Bran the first time he entered the Weirwood Net without the three-eyed raven. Once he did that, he went straight to the three-eyed raven's cave and tried to kill him. He killed the old three-eyed raven himself, and I have no doubts that he would have killed Bran at that point if he could have. On top of being the world's memory, Bran is a threat. He's the last Greenseer, and the last connection to the Children of the Forest magic that we know about in the story. That's the magic that created the White Walkers, and it's the magic that keeps them killing. The only way I see the Night King turning away from that goal is there is something specific in King's Landing that gets him closer to killing Bran. I think it's that important, and to this point, I can't think of what that might be. Before the show got so far ahead of the books, I always imagined the Isle of Faces and the weirwood trees that are there would be part of the Night King's endgame. But I've basically lost hope that it'll come up on the show. If this theory was about him going there to destroy the weirwoods, that would make sense to me. But the show would have to do a lot of explaining for people to understand what was even going on if it did go there. If the show foreshadowed the Isle of Faces even a little bit, I could possibly see the Night King swinging by King's Landing to destroy it after the God's Eye, but I'm not holding my breath. I think even if he went to the Citadel to destroy that, like the collection of works that are there, that would be a little bit confusing for some people if the Night King went there. I think that it is basically King's Landing or nowhere, and I'm leaning towards nowhere. So why is this idea so popular? Like I said, it is a good idea. There's questions that need to be answered, and it does answer them. I think part of it is that we just know there will be a twist. We want to know what that twist is, and King's Landing is the only place left outside of Winterfell that we know will definitely be part of the story. One way or another, Cersei will have to be dealt with. So does this mean that I think that the Night King will die in episode 3? No. I suppose he could, but this really does seem too early, and that's another reason why this idea has gotten so much attention. To sum it all up, I do think there will be a twist, but I don't think it's going to be the Night King turning King's Landing into a new Southern army. I could be wrong, but I think there are better options if he wants to grow the size of his army, and other targets that would make more sense. I think that what Bran said at the War Council is very important, and that the Night King will be gunning for him. I don't know if the Battle of Winterfell will be decisive one way or another, or if it will serve to set the table for the final confrontation. I do know that I'm excited to watch it, and I hope it'll live up to the hype. I think it goes without saying that there will be another battle after the Battle of Winterfell. I think it also goes without saying that Cersei will have to be removed from her place of power before all is said and done. But none of what we know in that regard leads me to believe that going to King's Landing is necessary, so I'm just leaning towards it not happening. I think there's a lot of really good setup, and I don't think that the Night King would have to die at Winterfell in order for that to be an amazing episode of television. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, though. Are you still thinking that going to King's Landing makes the most sense for the Night King and Viserion? If that's the case, will he not show up at the Battle of Winterfell at all? Will his second in command take the opportunity to become a main character? And of course, who do you think will die after all those setups in episode 2? Please like the video if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to my channel if you want to follow along for the rest of the ride. As mentioned, I have been traveling. I had to travel, so I haven't made as many videos as I would like this week, but I will get back to my regular schedule when I get back home next week. So thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.